What's up guys, I'm George LaHoff and today on Maker's Best Friend I'm going to show you how I made this awesome LED neon sign for one of my favorite YouTubers, AIRRACK. Check it out. To start off making these signs, we need to cut out slots on a sheet of plexiglass for the LEDs to sit in. I created these templates off the cooker sign design that I had approved by AIRRACK's manager before actually cutting out on the plexiglass. I used these clamps to hold the template into place and then drilled a pilot hole and ran a router along the entire template to match the design. Before doing this, I made sure that the diameter of the router bit was larger than the thickness of the LED strips so that they would actually fit snugly into place. After finishing one part of the template, I placed the next piece in line with the previous cut and continued to route out the design. The only trouble was that I had to continuously move the clamps out of the way of the router while making sure that the template didn't shift at all. After routing the inside, I decided to route out the outside shape as well, and that gave it a really cool, sleek look. Also, if you don't have a router, you can actually just cut out a pretty smooth line using a jigsaw like I'm doing here. Now before I start building this, you might be wondering who is AIRRACK and why am I making him this sign? AIRRACK's a YouTuber who's able to grow his YouTube channel to over 1 million subscribers in under 1 year. I got the chance to learn a lot about him through his Creator Now program and even got the chance to get some advice from MRBEAST on my YouTube video.
You can just be like, got a nail, got a 2x4, and just do it. You know what I mean? You don't really need to draw it up. I think you get the point. You can take over from here. Yep. I appreciate you, George.
So this is simply a way of me saying thank you to AIRRACK. Now let's get back to the sign. This is actually the first time I'm making this neon sign, and it ended up being the second and third time I ended up making the neon sign as well. Before I tell you what went wrong, I think it would help to show you exactly what it takes to make one of these signs. This is the end of the LED cable that we need to solder 2 wires to. We need to do this for every single cut in the cable or break in the design. I ended up measuring out the length of the cable that I needed for each letter and cut the cable at those break points. Then I'd solder each joint first, followed by inserting the electric cable into it and soldering that to the terminal. I'd add some CA glue and press the wire down across the LED wire, which helps with some stress relief as well as hiding the cable. Before turning on the lights, I used a voltmeter to make sure that there was a strong connection between the terminals of each strip. Now every time I ended up making the sign, the easier it got and the more tricks I picked up to make it better. Unfortunately, the second sign that I sent out ended up getting damaged and one of the wires got loose and half the sign wouldn't light up.
Does it have a remote or anything? Oh! I don't know how to fix this? Let a boy know.
Finally, I was getting the hang of this and I was able to quickly remake the entire sign, and this is where I ended up doing a curved design around all the letters versus the square, which gave it a much nicer, cleaner look to it. So let's nail in the process with some first-person views of how I made each connection. I cut the LED at the breakpoint, pre-soldered the terminals, and then soldered the electrical cable between the 2 LED strips. To help keeping all the wires secure this time, because I really didn't want it to get disconnected again, I ended up adding hot glue to each of the wires inside the terminals, which gave it a lot of stress relief and worked really well. After I added in the hot glue, I'd make sure all the lights were still working by just using a spare battery that I had laying around. This build took a lot of efforts and tries, so if you've been enjoying this video so far, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell below. It's free, which is opposite of what this entire project cost me. Thanks. Alright, so let's go ahead and finish the sign up. This becomes a bit tedious, but this had to be perfect this time, so I took my time, double checked all of my connections, and then secured the electrical wiring as well as I could to both the terminals and to the exterior of the cable. After it was all electrically connected, I inserted the LEDs into the cutout template, did one final light test, and then I used CA glue to adhere it all together and make sure nothing would move. And there it is. Third time is the charm with this project. It got to AIRRACK safe and sound, and he ended up loving it. Huge shout out to you, AIRRACK. Thanks as always for watching. Peace.